Hello, today is Sunday, September 27, 2020. I would like to talk about the price of being silent. And I'm talking about Iran and people like me. I would like to explore this idea that how did the clerk came to the power and are Iranians silent? And what is the reason for them to be silent? That's what I'm exploring. Before the 1979 revolution in Iran was a nation that was moving toward industrialization. There was economic prosperity and it had a good relation with other nations. Even Iran is located at the epicenter of political realism. The price of oil was booming and Iran was advancing in a very fast pace. Since we have limited resources and Iran was playing a major role at the global scale, countries like United States saw Iran at the leadership of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi was posing threat to their economy. And the USA heavily relies on military industrialization. At that time, Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi was purchasing weapons from the USA. Later on, it shifted toward socialist or communist nations to buy weapons because was trying to expand Iran's relation with other nations. The USA didn't like that, and Jimmy Carter had said Iran is becoming second Japan and he cannot let it happen. So he came and he falsely accused Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi for human rights violation. And he was saying there is no democracy. In fact, there are evidence that Jimmy Carter himself doesn't like democracy. He doesn't believe in democracy. He accused with the International Red Cross and Human Rights Watch, Iran's Secret Service, SAVAK, for having a torture chamber, killing people, decimating people, all kinds of false lies. In fact, it is the United States during 60s and 70s had secret chambers that they were taking Black Panthers, the activists I'm talking, okay, taking them to the secret places, not being able to talk with their families, anything like that, and they were torturing them. So whatever Jimmy Carter was doing was saying SAVAK was doing. To this very day, there is no any evidence that SAVAK was doing anything illegal. SAVAK had a responsibility to maintain peace and order, and that's what exactly was doing. Couldn't allow hoodlums running around burning buildings, doing anything like that. So another aspect was this equation of causing chaos in Iran. BBC gave a platform to Khomeini and says, well, the king is bad, stealing money from people, come on in, telling people revolt against the establishment. And people were at that time not so much experienced at the global stage. They didn't know what was happening. They believed what Khomeini says. Khomeini was saying, I'm a descendant of Prophet Muhammad, so I'm not lying. Some people claim that a piece of hair of his facial hair was discovered in the Quran. It is in every Quran. Some people saw Khomeini image in the moon. So they were kind of a miracle. That's what they're trying to say. And later on, there was a regency government. Jimmy Carter says, well, I'm supporting Dr. Shahpur Bakhtiar, who formed a regency government. And people really became agitated because they were saying the king is the puppet of the US. So Jimmy Carter really destroyed Iran and the region. his hands are tainted in the blood of innocent people. Okay, we are coming to that point. And there was the cinnamon rakes that burned them. Okay, in city of Abadan. So what does it get? When the laughing faction and the cleric established themselves in a power position, they began to execute the imperial armed forces, their members, their high-ranking officers, everything. And Iranian people remain silent, and they say, "Oh, why do you want to say anything? I have my safety, I have my security, I have my money, I have everything. I don't need to do anything. Why do I want to mess it up?" So they didn't say anything. So then the laughing start clashing with the cleric over what will be the right type of a state to have in Iran. Obviously, the laughing faction was pursuing some kind of a secular and laughing ideology, political economy that is gearing toward socialism or communism. The cleric wanted power, so they were not going to share it with anybody. This is their trophy. This is their time. And they saw themselves in the light of Muhammad, that everybody is infidel, just them are the true believer in God, and they are going to heaven. And they began to killing everybody. They rape girls before execution. They said the girls cannot go to heaven, we have to rape them, and they're infidels, and that's how they're going to go to heaven. These are facts. These are not accusations. These are not something I'm making up. These are facts that happen and still is happening in Iran. So people say, I'm not laughing. Why do I want to involve myself? Why do I want to put myself in danger? Everybody remained silent. Khomeini began to instigating people in Iraq and telling them, revolt against Saddam Hussein. Again, these are historical facts. These are not my words. And I'm not attacking at Iran. I'm not attacking at Iranians. And I'm not altering. I'm not revising history. Khomeini was encouraging Iraqi people to overthrow Saddam Hussein, particularly Shia Muslims in Iraq. And Saddam Hussein as well, the Algeria Accord is nullified, and he attacked at Iran. So whose fault was it? Khomeini or Saddam Hussein? Khomeini. So he attacked. And there was 8 years war, and people didn't say anything. They say, we have an aggressor, we have to push Iraqi forces out of Iran. And soldiers came back from the battlefield. And they said, they're not giving us reinforcement. Okay? With an assault rifle, we cannot go against tank. Okay? These are not my words. Hushain Samedi, who was the commander of Iran Special Forces, in his book, he wrote about it. I made a book review about it. And he says, we did not have reinforcement. The Bani Sad was, at that time, wasn't giving them anything. They were really left to their own devices. Okay? Several times Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, made an offer to Iran and Saddam Hussein to stop the war, and we're going to pay for all the damages. They didn't want a war. They were saying Muslims cannot kill another Muslim person. But the cleric regime remained defiant. And that was a really good strategy for the cleric to eradicate all the opposing voices, establishing themselves, the revolutionary guards to establish itself, and making sure they're holding on the power firm and strong. And what they were doing really, Mohammad Reza is one of he doesn't have any kind of a military knowledge, experience, anything like that. Okay, so he orchestrated a military operation called Karbala 4, Operation Karbala 4, and telling all these soldiers attack at Iraq. And what is so interesting about it, then when this deploying the soldiers to advance forward, Iraqi forces were fully aware that these soldiers are coming into Iraq land. and there are 175 scuba divers being buried alive. And Mohammad Reza says, oh, I did that because I was staging the next military attack, and I want them to think, if you're losing about 6,000 soldiers in one military operation, so we are not contemplating to strike another time. So these are the people's mentality. Really, people mean nothing to them. And they kill, they did whatever they could. After that, they went after intellectuals. They killed them, and people say, it has nothing to do. The regime began to have a policy of, it was from get-go, it was, they were saying it, it's not like something that was hidden. They were saying that we're going to expand Shia sects all over the world. The whole world become Shia Muslims. These are not my word. Everybody knows about it. We have been telling people, and people are saying, oh, you're lying. You are this, you are that. And someone like me said, I'm not lying to you. These are facts. These are the things that the clerics are saying in Iran. And they took Iran through economic section. They took Iran through really all kinds of different kind of a crisis that nobody wants it. Iran right now is the most poor country in the world because of economic section. It has nothing to do with the USA that is imposing economic sanctions. It has to do with the belligerent attitude of the cleric in Iran. Right now, the cleric regime in Iran does not have support of Iranians. Okay, it has no support. So we were silent all these years. Are Iranian problem, or is this why? Because someone like me is not talking, is not doing enough? No, I'm doing it. We have no leaders. And Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi says, I am the leader, I am going to emancipate Iran, I'm going to liberate Iran. But when time comes, he just issues one piece of paper and says, well, that's it. He used to talk about civil disobedience, we're going to overthrow the cleric regime. And when this activist, she was not an activist, she was an innocent bystander, was just witnessing history during the demonstration. One of the Basiji paramilitary killed her. She's well known. An innocent bystander. She was not doing anything. She was just looking at the crowd. She wasn't saying death to anybody, anything. Same as me. I see something like, oh, what's going on over here? And she came, Crown Prince came, oh, I'm crying, we lost Nida, and always promised that with the least amount of cost for us, we're going to liberate Iran. And he's silent. Anybody can write a piece of paper and says, oh, okay, well, whatever. It's about being action. And we don't have a leader who's action-oriented. That's our problem. It's not that Iranians are not revolting. Iranian people are there. They want the clear go in a very peaceful manner. And I talk about movie theater racks in city of Abadan. One of the reasons people really got agitated at the Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi because that movie theater in city of Abadan. The clerics began accuse the king of orchestrating burning down the movie theater, and people burn alive in that movie theater. They're all elements. If Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi wants to topple the regime in Iran within framework of whatever it is, civil disobedience, okay, without military intervention, he could do it. He has all the elements to do it, and he doesn't want to do it. Okay, cinema wrecks, movie theater wrecks in Abadan. What do we have? The Ukrainian airplane came down on January 8th, 2020. People were mad. People were outside. After that, They killed Navid Afkari. After that, Nader Mukhtari. There are many people that the cleric regime in Iran is killing them because simply freedom of expression. I have a right to say I don't like this, I don't like that. And he's doing absolutely nothing, just a piece of paper. I could write million of things on a piece of paper every day, every second. I say how sad and disappointed I am about what is unfolding in Iran. But that's not going to liberate Iran. Okay? One of the things that bothers me the most, and nobody's talking about it, is there are the children of Iran. The ones that are about to be born, or they're born in Iran, because of economic sanctions are causing Iran's economy right now is bankrupt. Okay, like I'm not interested because someone has to say Iran's economy is bankrupt. Iran's economy is bankrupt. I don't need somebody to tell me that. I already know that Iran's economy is bankrupt. But what happens when children are not having proper food in their body? Their brains are being destroyed. So these economic sanctions are destroying the future of Iran. Okay, Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi was putting food on the table during when kids were coming to the school. I was getting milk, I was getting fruits, I was getting all kinds of things. It is Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. Think about what your father did for Iran. Think about your grandfather did to Iran. It is true some people during 1979 they came, they were thinking that they're going to get a gold, they're going to have a free right society. But today's generation who are dying and the next generation that are going to burn has nothing to do with them. They were being deceived by Jimmy Carter, by BBC, France, Russia were also involved in it. We already know that. I don't need somebody to prove it. But I'm hoping Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi to stand up and say. I also see Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi's point of view. Before 9/11, they killed his sister. Okay? When they wanted to start the Velvet Revolution in North Africa and around the Middle East nations, they killed his brother. But sometimes we have to stand up.